TGIF, everybody. It's Tony George along with my good buddy Sean Salisbury on a Friday. We're breaking down, we're going to go all Texas today, not only baseball, but an NBA free play as well. And Sean, your hometown Astros, by the way, Sean does a show down there in Houston you can find on iHeartRadio each and every day. And Sean, your Houston Astros are headed on the road up to Seattle. Currently on a 0-5 run, Sean. I know they've had some issues down there with COVID, this, that, and the other, but a big series for the Astros this weekend to try and get it going. And it's not going to be easy duty here because Seattle's caught some steam here lately, and I think it's going to be a real interesting series and a real interesting game to open it up here on Friday night.
Yeah, the Mariners have gotten a lot. They're young. They're a couple years away, I think, from being really good. They're building something. I mean, they took care of Baltimore pretty handily in the most recent series. And the Astros, Tony, have with that fast start, just as you start fast and hit, just as quickly it goes the other way. They've lost 5 in a row, manhandled by the Detroit Tigers, who are playing better baseball, but they did not play well in that series. Tony, you're talking about stranding. And Kyle Tucker, and I think in his last 4 at-bats, has left nine or so guys on base. They're left on base and runners in scoring positions. Guys are standing there. You can smoke a cigar twice, and they're not getting home. They are not pitching deep. They're not pitching deep into games with their starting pitching, which is taxing a bullpen. All the things you don't want to hear 10, 11 games into the season, that's what the Astros are doing now. So, and now with the COVID thing and the protocol, they're going to be shorthanded with some of their stars, not only tonight, but maybe in the entire series. And they need a win desperately. I talked to their GM yesterday and in James Clicker, on Wednesday. No, we moved it to Thursday because of all the COVID stuff that he had to deal with on Wednesday. And their GM, the frustration, but they've got to find a way to get it going. And he was talking about, I asked him about, well, be a fan and you be the analyst and rate your team. He says, well, it's early. We don't ever like to, get too high or too low. And as I paraphrase, but he talked about the frustration when you see a guy stranded on base and taxing a bullpen. It can become tough. So this seems like a game they need to bounce out of it, Tony. It does. They've got to get the Correas and the Kyle Tuckers hitting, and Urquidy's got to last, Tony. I was at the last game in person when he on Saturday against Oakland. Yeah. Now he throws so many strikes. The problem is he lives in the strike zone, and in fastballs living in the strike zone, as you know, as a baseball fan for a long time, they're going to hit fastballs living in the strike zone, right? So he's got to learn to pitch out of the strike zone because he's so efficient with it. I got to believe he's going to get to 5 or 6 innings. If he doesn't, they're in trouble. And I think eight's the total. I would take the over in this. I think Seattle's swinging the bat well, and it's time for Houston after 5 straight bad performances to drive in a few runs. I look for the over in this game.
Yeah, you got the Astros hitting .269 against right-handers on the season, which is good because the Seattle starter tonight is a right-hander. What concerns me the most, and I am going to tend to agree with you on the over here, but one thing that does give me great pause, and by the way, Houston's -110 now, Seattle's +100, and I can only look at Seattle until Houston gets their act together on the side play here. I'm not laying -110 on the road with a team like Houston right now in the funk they're in of being shorthanded. But the one thing that's got to be of grave concern to you as a local fan and anybody back in Houston in this game is the fact that the bullpen for Seattle in the last 5 games has a 0.66 ERA, Sean, and that's eyebrow raising.
It is. And Tony, you make such a good point because you couple a team that, the predictions going in had them in last place, and they've started to talk about, well, there were a few teams that are young teams. Like we were talking about the Padres 4 years ago, right? Or the Atlanta Braves or the White Sox, how now they've elevated. Now, I know that the Mariners may not be a year away from that, but they are starting to build with young prospects and getting help from their veterans. And you're right. When you take that ERA from the bullpen and look at how many pitchers early in the season don't get into the 8th or 9th inning, that they're pitching into 5 or 6 innings. So you're relying on that bullpen more. And for them to be lights out and the Astros to be leaving so many runners on base with big hitters in the lineup, and they'll still have some with the Brantleys and the Correas and that group,
Right.
and the Kyle Tuckers and the Jordan, without no Yordan Alvarez, no Alex Bregman, no Jose Altuve, right? So they've got some work to do swinging that bat, and I'm with you. That's not a good mix for the Astros, but at some point the stars got to be stars, and they got to get better production from the 8 and 9 hole. That's been awful
Yeah.
for the most part for the Astros this year.
Yeah, one thing about the Astros hitting lineup, even with those 3 guys out you mentioned, even the way it stands, there are a lot of teams in the league that would kill to have that hitting lineup as it sits starting this game here. And I think they can get it going here a little bit. What's impressed me most, really beating up the Orioles 4 out of 5 games doesn't impress me, but they did beat up on the Twins 2-1 and won that series as well. So you've got a young team brimming with confidence that's going to go out and swing against a pitcher with a starting ERA of 5.23, and then your bullpen 4.43 ERA their last 5 games. I think you're going to see some runs on the board. It's a consensus pick here. Sean and I are going to go with the over 8 runs in this one here in Seattle tonight. I'm going to lean Seattle on the side very lightly here until Houston starts winning some games and putting up some, getting some runners in. I can't back them as a favorite on the road, especially off an 0-5 effort here their last 5. Be sure and click the link in the description below, folks. We got a free $60 for you. Be sure and tune in to the Sean Salisbury Show on iHeartRadio. It is one of the best sports talk shows in the country, so be sure and tune into that. And check us out today as well. We're doing an NBA free pick for you as well. Have a great Friday.